Have you ever stopped to wonder what a man truly gives when he sleeps with someone? It's not just his body. It's not performance. What he offers, without even realizing it, is his soul. A soul starving. Starving for validation, for warmth, for the quiet relief of being chosen. But that need doesn't show up as weakness. It wears the mask of desire, of dominance, of lust. Because what seems like a physical act is often something far deeper. At its root, a man's true longing isn't for sex. It's for recognition, to be seen fully, to be held in his wholeness, especially in the parts of him that feel broken. When a man lowers himself to a woman's body, it's rarely just about pleasure. He's reaching, sometimes desperately, for the affection he never received. It looks like lust, but beneath it lies ancestral emptiness, camouflaged as control. When intimacy is real, truly conscious, it strips away the performance. It unmasks the armor, and in that raw space, Carl Jung's deepest psychological truths rise to the surface. The body becomes a message, the shadow a mirror, but only visible to the one willing to look past the act and into the ache. Jung never saw desire as animal instinct alone. He viewed it as a bridge between the conscious and the unconscious, between ego and soul. He wrote that every intimate act reveals more than it appears to. Desire for Jung wasn't born in the flesh. It was born in the psyche. Every move, every impulse, every hunger is rooted in the unconscious. Sex isn't just physical, it's spiritual. It's an exchange of energies, of unspoken wounds, of intentions. And when the wrong woman enters your life, something meant to nourish becomes a drain, physically, emotionally, spiritually. In this video, you'll learn why so many men feel hollow after sex, why the exhaustion doesn't come from the body, but from the soul. Because each time you give yourself without presence, without connection, you're not just having sex, you're trading sacred parts of yourself for momentary approval. Yes, the female body is a temple, but so is yours. And when two temples meet without consciousness, what's created is not connection, it's energetic chaos. You're not just touching skin, you're opening portals, and not every portal leads somewhere safe. As this journey unfolds, you'll begin to see what no one taught you to see, what's always been there, but hidden beneath performance and silence. Because when a man truly surrenders in intimacy, he doesn't just offer his body, he unconsciously reveals his deepest truths, his fear of being unloved, the insecurity behind his confidence, the childhood ache hidden beneath silence. Visceral intimacy isn't about sex. It's about feeling exposed from the inside out. It's in that pause, that look, that moment between breath and touch, that the invisible child appears, the boy who never felt safe unless he earned affection. And that is more terrifying than any physical nakedness, because so many men hold their composure outwardly while quietly falling apart inside. The mask of masculinity doesn't shatter with shouting. It dissolves in silence. A soft touch can awaken an ancient wound. A kind gesture can resurface abandonment buried for decades. Jung said, "The unconscious is always speaking, and in intimacy, it screams." The body becomes the stage, and the soul performs its buried pain. This is why many men pull away when things get close, because true intimacy is a mirror, and not everyone is ready to see their reflection. When masculine strength begins to break, it doesn't start with a breakdown. It starts with a whisper. Not an explosion, not a crisis, but a subtle touch that finds its way through the cracks in his armor. And when it does, something long asleep begins to stir. But make no mistake, this stirring is only the beginning. Most men were taught that pleasure is about technique, performance, impress her, prove yourself, do it right. But real connection, real desire, has nothing to do with performance. It comes from somewhere deeper, somewhere sacred. To truly give pleasure is not just physical, it's spiritual. It's a return to a forgotten part of the self, a soft, hidden core that the world demanded he silence. Carl Jung called it the feminine within the man, that quiet, intuitive part that longs to feel instead of perform. And here's the paradox. In the deepest moments of intimacy, when a man fully surrenders, he doesn't just connect to her, he reconnects to himself. Sacred pleasure is not about control, it's about total presence. It's when the body becomes a mirror, reflecting his soul with no defenses, no act. In that surrender, something ancient awakens, something no performance can fake. Because real intimacy doesn't begin in the body, it begins in the silence, in listening without words, in allowing that long-exiled sensitivity to rise again. It's not about proving you're good enough. It's about remembering who you are beneath the armor. And when a man touches that truth, pleasure becomes medicine. But for many men, that level of openness still feels far too dangerous. Not because the other person is truly toxic, but because there are still wounds inside him that haven't closed. On the surface, he wears the mask of strength, but within, he's falling apart. He searches for a cure to the emptiness he's never dared to confront, hoping someone else can fill it. In this private war, the body becomes one of two things: a fortress for protection or a bridge for healing. It all depends on whether emotional vulnerability is seen as danger or invitation. The shadow isn't what he despises in others, it's what he hides from himself. That fear of seeming weak, that deep panic of rejection, that silent craving for approval, they all live buried in the unconscious, waiting for the right moment to break through. And where do they appear? In the touch that awakens forgotten pain, in the reflection of closeness, in patterns of connection that seem like fate, but are deeply familiar wounds repeating themselves. Every man, sooner or later, will project onto another person the very thing he hasn't yet claimed within himself. He looks at a woman and unknowingly turns her into everything: lover, mother, healer, redeemer. But the issue isn't in loving. It's in demanding someone else fill a space only he can fill. That's not love. That's the shadow reenacting an ancient hunger, a ghost of love never received. And projection almost always ends in heartbreak, because when you place someone on a pedestal, you're not truly seeing them. You're seeing your own unhealed reflection. That idealization becomes a trap. And the moment they make a mistake, the fantasy collapses. The man who once adored her now feels resentment. Desire curdles into bitterness. Why? Because he went looking outside for something he was meant to discover within. His forgotten anima, his buried sensitivity, his quiet inner presence. It's in that frantic search for wholeness that many men get lost. They confuse passion for connection, emptiness for love, and attention for salvation. But no woman, no matter how divine, can be the perfect mirror for a man who hasn't yet looked at his own reflection. The emotional mirror starts within, and to truly see yourself without filters takes a kind of bravery few are ever taught. Yet that very bravery is the key to the next level of transformation. Most men spend years waiting to be chosen, for someone to notice them, desire them, confirm they're enough. A kind word, a gentle touch, a yes. But the hard truth is this: that kind of validation never lasts, because it comes from outside, and whatever comes from outside can always vanish. Healing begins when a man stops waiting to be picked, when he realizes he doesn't have to beg for connection, because the thirst to be chosen dissolves the moment he chooses himself, fully and without apology. Self-knowledge isn't something you just read about. It's a lived experience. To sit with yourself in silence. To listen to what has no words. To stop running from the ache inside you. And it's there, in that broken sacred space, that the real masculine awakening begins. Intimacy stops being an act. It becomes a mirror of truth. Desire stops grasping. It becomes invitation, flow, soul expression. This is the moment when sexuality turns into ceremony. No longer an escape, but a homecoming, where pleasure rises from wholeness, not need, where the shadow becomes your teacher, and silence becomes your guide. To reach that sacred inner space, a man must walk through the prison of his ego and strip away, one by one, the masks of false strength. And in that journey, something long buried by the world begins to surface, his raw, unfiltered humanity. Not every woman should have access to your body, let alone your energy. When sex is unconscious, it opens a hidden gateway where your life force can be drained before you even realize what's happened. Some women, still bleeding from old wounds, addicted to emotional chaos, and disconnected from their own essence, carry a hollow emptiness inside. And when you merge with that void, it doesn't fill you. It consumes you. It takes your clarity, your masculine focus, your direction. You walk away emptier than when you entered, and still convince yourself it was pleasure. But what she carries within, her past, her unresolved attachments, her emotional loops, is etched into her body. And during sex, all of it enters your energy field. Not just her touch, her trauma, her unhealed ghosts, her chaos. It passes through you unnoticed, and if you're not fully awake, that union becomes contamination. You begin to feel drained, disoriented, emotionally dull, and you don't even know why. Because this kind of intimacy is silent, but destructive. It's not about muscles, confidence, or spiritual memes online. If you keep surrendering yourself to women lost in their own storm, your soul will continue to wither. This takes energetic discernment, presence, a new pattern of conscious choice. Because as long as you offer yourself just to silence your emptiness, your soul remains fractured, and one day it might not return from where it was lost. So now be honest. How many times have you given yourself to someone thinking it was just desire, only to leave the bed feeling more broken? How often did you mistake intensity for love and handed your sacred energy to someone who couldn't even hold space for her own? The truth may sting, but it could also set you free. Because from this moment on, you can't unsee it. Sex is not a game. Your body is not a tool. It is a sacred portal, and every intimate encounter is either rebuilding you or burying you deeper. So the question now is this: will you keep giving all of yourself to someone who only wants a fraction of you? Or will you finally raise your standard and demand a level of awareness that aligns with the worth of your soul? If this message stirred something inside you, drop a comment below. Tell us which part hit hardest. And if you know a man who needs this truth, share it. Subscribe now, because this conversation is not just about sex. It's about who you become when no one is watching. Not performance, presence.